One of the most profound things I've learned in my life is that it's actually not about my hair at all. I've spent a lifetime trying to cover up who I am. And as much as I love a good external transformation, and I do, I much more love a heart transformation. Join me as I share how I work to heal my heart, find happiness, and embrace our hair. Okay, you guys, welcome back to episode of 11 of It's Not About Your Hair, where we talk all things hair, heart, and happiness. Hey, I brought back my co-host, Sophie Voss, because we had so much fun in the last episode. And I feel like even though that was my longest episode ever, I feel like we just scratched the surface on identity, finding out your goals, figuring out who you are. And so I thought I'd bring Sophie back because I felt like there was so much more we could talk about and unpack. And she agreed to come back. So welcome back. On this episode, we're going to go a little bit deeper. In the very beginning of the podcast, I talked about hold on, rewind. In the very beginning of the podcast, the whole reason I started this was years ago, I wrote a book. And each chapter of the book was something the Lord had brought. I made this timeline, and it was a memory of something, whether good or bad, in my life that I had to go back and unpack personally and then find the purpose in it. And for me, that has been invaluable to change the lens on which I look through my life. So, I bring out the book when I'm thinking about what the episodes are going to be. This one naturally just evolved. I didn't even know I was going to have Sophie on the show, and it was so fun. And then we felt like we ended, and there could have been more unpacked in this idea of identity and how we form who we are. And so that's why I say it's not about your hair. For me, my hair played a big part in my identity because it is so visual. And at this stage of my life, I get so many compliments on my hair, you guys. It's so fascinating to me. I had an exchange daughter from Italy, Brittany, if you're listening, I love you so much. But she used to say, Mama Cassie, do you ever get so sick of this? All these people always say, I like this hair. I like this hair. And I'm like, no, honey. I do not get sick of that because I spent a huge portion of my life with people making fun of my hair and me not understanding my hair and me trying to change my hair. And so again, that becomes this thing that you put on. We put on these other people's opinions of us. And we talked about that on the last episode, right? Like whether it's your parents' opinion of you, not or your friend's opinion of you, or what you believe about you based on these other things. And so for me, unpacking these little parts about myself have helped me. In the last episode, if you didn't watch, you should go back and watch it or listen. Sophie talked about the importance of knowing your parents as people and not just as parents. And sometimes you can't do that when you're really, really young. But we started with our kids pretty young. As I did my journey of self-discovery, I would say Sydney got it the least because I was the most self-righteous and just religious when Sydney was little, trying to earn my way to God. Because that's what I always have done in my life. I've tried to earn my way to be loved based on a version of the reality from my childhood, you guys, that I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't pretty enough, and that's why my dad left us. And none of that was true, but it's this thing. And so in the book that I wrote, you guys, there's this picture. If you're watching, you can look right here because I wrote the book and then I made notes for each chapter. And one of the things that I want when I do finally publish the book is that it'll be a workbook book. Each chapter will be calls to actions for you to remember a certain time in your life where there'll be pictures or sketches or lines to draw in. And so it's a picture of two people, two stick figures, one's holding the other one. And it says, hey, can you hold this for me? And the person says, no, because that's life. And we were talking about that. Sophie is a shy, introverted person sometimes. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah.
Sometimes. But if Sophie's whole life, all I did was say, Sophie, because she said on the last episode, if my mom could have it her way, I'd hang out with my friends twice a day and be bubbly and cheerful and do all these things. I don't want to make Sophie the version of her that I want her to be because she will continually be unhealthy in her own skin trying to be that version. And I think for some parts of our life, we do that. When we're young, we're trying to figure out who we are. Sophie's in that split of where we become. And some adults are still doing this, you guys, pretending to be what their parents want them to be, pretending to be what they think the world wants them to be. And that's what I mean by someone handing you something. So someone handed me, "You're not smart," when you're young. And I decided to continue to hold that for a long period of my life. I am not smart. And what that did for me was prevented me from trying anything that I might look stupid, which guess what? Every time you try something new, what are you going to look? What do you look every time you try something new?
Stupid.
Well, I wouldn't say stupid, but yeah, stupid. Because you don't know it. And we have this weird expectation. We talk about this a lot in our house, that we think we should be the master of something that we've never done, right? Mm-hmm. So we use words like stupid, and those are shame words. They make us feel icky and ugly. And so it took me a long time to get to the point where I realized I wasn't stupid. I'm actually really, really smart as a whip. But not book smart, you guys. Not in the, like, I'm not going to take a test and ace it, but I am really resourceful and able and willing. And here's what I'm also able to do: talk nicely about myself. Smart as a whip. Guess what? Sophie, all of my kids are smart as a whip. You're smart as a whip, aren't you? Book smart, straight A'er. Sydney, straight A'er. Sadie, straight A'er. Guess what? I don't know where they got that from. Do you know where I think they got it? If I'm honest. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, this podcast is about honesty. So, Sophie, you feel free to say it. I think we handed you a bag at a very young age that said, "You're really smart and you're really capable."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and you've never put pressure on us. I think a lot of times, never put pressure on us. I've never felt pressure from my parents to be a straight A student. I've always felt pressure to do my best. And so whether that was a C, doing my best, and then going out and looking for help in order to get to an A or get to a B, but it's just making sure you're putting your all into it and trying your hardest. And I think that's been really impactful in my life. Is you don't have to be the best on the team. But you do have to have the best attitude on the team.
I'll cut your throat. You ain't got a good attitude on the team.
I think that's been really important in my life, is that when I do things, I need to have a positive outlook on it, and I need to try my best. And so I can't do stuff with I'm thinking
half-ass.
Yeah, stuff, because that was not taught in our house, and you do everything with your full capability, and yeah.
And the way that translates differently, you guys. So in my family, where I grew up, the expectation was you're going to get straight A's, and if you don't, you are going to be punished. And not only are you going to get straight A's and you're going to be punished if you can't, you're going to embarrass us, and then you're going to have shame, and then you better work your tail off to get back up to the top. Well, I didn't know how to get to the top, and I think what that created for me was a vacuum of like a sucking of who I was, because I couldn't measure up to this standard. And so for me and my family, and I don't know if this is right, I'm just telling you, I never wanted to make it about their grades, because I don't give a crap. In fact, I know a lot of people who graduated with straight A's who can't make it in the real world, because all of it was about being the A student. But in the world, there aren't freaking A's and B's. No. And life is full of D's and E's. Okay, so sometimes you try your best and you get a D.
Right.
And it sucks. And what happens is the people who have been conditioned to believe, and this was my past, the people who have been conditioned to believe that if you try your best, you do it all, and you get a D, you are a failure, you are an embarrassment, you didn't measure up, you better what? Quit. If the expectation is, you better try your best, and god dang it, if you get a C, that's awesome, because you did something you didn't know how to do, and if you get a B, god dang it, pretty darn smart. If you get an A, that's just probably the luckiest thing that ever happened to anyone on the whole planet because you were just trying your best. But a C to me is just an indicator that I'm average in competency on something. And if I want to know more about it, Sophie, Sadie, Sydney, Mama, Dad, we can advance our knowledge through hard work and effort to get to an A. Mm-hmm. But a C is like, listen, if I'm not into it, I don't want to learn more about it. But what we can't show up with less of is a good attitude. Mm-hmm. Because if you have that stinky attitude, these are the kids, and my kids have been guilty, and I've been guilty, and I'm not judging. I'm saying, though, and you need to listen. And if this hurts you, Sophie, my kids will say when they read something that resonates with them, they're like, that's calling me out. You know, Sophie's like, I don't like reading that because that's calling me out. Sadie said that about the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. She's like, it's calling me out. So I'm going to say something that might call you out. And I'm not doing it to hurt your feelings. I'm doing it to advance the mission. Okay? If you or your kid is the kind of person that when they don't get a good grade, they're blaming somebody else or they're blaming the teacher or they're like super crappy and take their helmet off and throw it on the ground or they roll their eyes at their other teammates. And we've had those members. We've all done it. We've all done it. I've done it too. That's a D. I don't care if you're the freaking star player on the team. You're a D. You get a D, maybe even an E. Because if you show up in your work life like that and your team tries something new and they don't get it, and you're like, what are you, a bunch of idiots? Roll your eyes, throw your papers on the floor. How does that make your team feel? And we're talking about leadership and contagious lifestyles and these things. How would that make you feel, Sophie, if you were the captain of your swim team? Mm-hmm. What did you find most important for your job as the captain of your swim team, which can translate into captains of your family, leadership at work, the head cashier? Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. What did you think? We got to get close to the mic.
Okay. It's encouraging people across the board, whether what level they're at. So making sure the whole team felt united, whether that was the swimmer that was there because they wanted to make it to states, or the swimmer that was there because they needed the friendship, and making sure that everybody felt just as empowered and everybody felt just as encouraged, because it's not about getting the A, it's about the attitude and it's about the effort. And so just feeling empowered and feeling confident whether you get the A or you get the C, and knowing that it doesn't matter because you tried your best. So it matters if you go in and you get a C because you had a crap attitude and you didn't study, or you didn't train hard enough in practice. But if you knew you tried your hardest and you still got a C, or you didn't get the time you wanted, well, you learned, you lived and you learned, and you have a chance to try again. And so just making sure that your attitude is correct just throughout, and and it's okay to feel discouraged, but not taking that out as anger and belittling to the other people and your teammates, but being transparent about how you feel and looking at other people for comfort, and not trying to think of the word, not
trying to bring others down.
Yeah, don't make other people feel little and to make yourself feel bigger.
And what about this is a big thing in sports, but also in life. So I'm going to use these analogies because I'm talking to Sophie, who was a sportster, and I think this is really important. If you had, and I'm going to use the pool because all my kids were swimmers. If you swam your worst swim and you get out of the pool and you grab your towel and you go sit in the corner and you cry and you whine and you throw a fit, and we've all done this. Or you get immediately out of the pool and you hop on them sidelines and you yell with everything you got for the next kid who's trying to swim their best race. Mm-hmm. And you cheer. Which one of those levels up your energy level back to where it needs to be to show up? The in the corner and isolating, or the get back out there and...
Well, I think this is my perspective on things. I think it's important to get back out there, but again, as somebody that needs their time, as we talked about in the last episode, to feel their emotions, if I didn't get the time I wanted, I would take time. I would give myself one event. So there's multiple events in this with me, and I would give myself one event to go into the bathroom and maybe cry about it, maybe get a little angry about it, but I would tell myself I'd have to shut it off for my team. And so I think it's okay to feel that and to feel your emotions and making sure you're not ignoring them, because you know that can have negative effects too. But giving yourself a set amount of time and then coming back out and showing up for your people and showing up for your team is really important. And you know, I really preach that too, as a captain, that you need to show up for each other no matter what level you're at and no matter how you're feeling, and screaming and cheering and being loud. And you know, it has our team is so united, and you know, it unites people across the board, whether that is screaming at us from me or complimenting your coworker, or you know, really just looking for the light in people instead of, you know,
The bad.
yeah.
Well, and I want to comment on that. So last week we talked about knowing each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really important what Sophie just said. Because, and we had to learn that during season because because of my past. So here's these sections of our life. Because of my past, I don't, and I'm much, 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 much better than I used to be. I used to not feel my feelings at all.
Mm-hmm.
At all. So I had no grace for you taking an event to go process that. I'm like mad already. I'm like, where are they? How come they're not out there showing up for their team? But slowing down. And I would say of all my kids, because Sophie is a people pleaser, and that this isn't right. I feel like there's pressure on her sometimes in that arena. But because of that, Sophie has been my child who's slowed down the most. Sydney, very much so now as an adult and with a social worker degree, has helped me tremendously. But Sophie slows down enough to come back and circle back around and talk to me. Where Sydney, we were like oil and water. You know, I would tell her what to do, and she's an 8 on the Enneagram, so she would challenge me, and then we would fight, and neither one of us would try to see each other's opinion. But Sophie's given me this really unique look into her life of like, Mama, I need to feel it, but you don't have to worry about me because I'm not going to be stuck there. If you watch me long enough, you'll see I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to show up. But I need to process it and I need to feel it. And she used to say, "You're like a robot, Mom. You don't feel anything." And I used to hate that so much, but over time, because I want to know myself and I want to know my kids, and lots of therapy has helped me to process that I can slow down and feel things and I'm not going to be stuck. And if I feel stuck, getting back out with my team, whether that's my family, calling a friend, going to small group on Friday night, if I do get stuck in my feelings, because sometimes they're hard and deep, though I can't get out alone. And that's what's really important when we're talking about this journey of life. I talked about the labyrinth a couple episodes that I walked, and realizing that the people behind me and in front of me were watching me. And that's super important when we're like handing things off to other people as far as our emotions and feelings, that we realize that I can say, that was a horrible day at work. I'm feeling very overwhelmed. I need 5 or 10 minutes in my room and I'll be back down. And everybody in your house knowing that and giving you that space, where before I knew that process, I would just be mad the minute I came home from work because I was overwhelmed and didn't know how to express what I needed because no one had taught me. And then you're like slamming doors and everyone's mad, and then you can change the atmosphere of your home, right?
Yeah.
And so I think really important that we talk about what we hand each other. And so if you're in a family, if you've made a decision about who someone is in your family, I'm going to encourage you. I hope you can hear me because I keep stepping away from the mic. I'm going to encourage you to slow down, listen, and watch them, because people are changing. I am different today than I was 5 days ago. And Sophie is completely different. And in this process of, we talked about last week, she's on a pause. We don't know what that means. A break from what she was going to, but she's not on a break from learning herself or becoming someone new. She's just on a pause. And I have to make sure I don't hand my bag of feelings to Sophie and ask her to hold on to it, because it will weigh her down and stop her from moving forward. And so really important that we understand these things. And so one of the things I wanted to get to is that sometimes we need to get out of our normal situation in order to find what we're looking for. And this is where most people won't do. And that's okay, but it's also where extraordinary things happen, is on the other side of our comfort zone. So there's a song, Oceans by, I can't remember who sings it. Hillsong,
Yeah,
maybe?
I think so.
Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the water wherever you may lead me. I think that when we want to activate the power that is within us, we have to be out of our realm of comfort. I really, really believe that. And so many people, so I've talked about this on other episodes, it's called the arena and the spectators. So many people choose to be spectators their whole life because getting in the arena is hard work, getting scary, having people watch you, doing something new, saying, hey, I don't want to keep going to beauty school, or the bride who, like, before the wedding is like, I don't want to get married. Like, that's so hard to do, but so powerful, because you're showing up to say, the path I'm on isn't working for me today, John. And everybody's going to have an opinion about it. And that was kind of one of your biggest things when you chose to step away from the path you were on, is what? You were afraid of what?
That I was letting people down, and that it's you know, wanting to take a break, and but without having an idea of, or wanting to quit even without having an idea of what the next step is even more scary. Like, I don't know what my next decision is going to be. I don't know what I want to pursue as a career. I don't know. And so coming to you guys and saying, I want to take this break, and I, is even more scary when you don't have a solution. And
For
so
sure.
I felt like I didn't have a solution. And I was scared people were gonna be like, "What does she think she's doing? She's stupid for dropping out and wasting that money." And
Shame, shame,
and
shame.
not having a backup plan, or having having any decisions or ideas of what she wants to do. But you know, um, yeah, people's perspective of me, I was scared it was gonna change. And
But what's more important is your perspective of you.
mm-hmm.
So the braver step is that she did it anyways, because most people won't do what they want to do because they're worried what other people are going to think. So that goes back to Sophie believing, fine, I'm just going to say it, I'm going to do it. And then I wrote down, we ended last episode with her saying she needed to figure out how to not be. So she might be an introverted person, but she's sick of being a shy, overthinking, insecure person. Those are different.
Mm-hmm.
Those are completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And so introverted and needing just as much time alone as you need with other people is one thing. Overthinking, anxiety ridden, and fearful is not a personality trait. And that is the lie the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So is Sophie gonna, so we say this a lot because my husband always says, I wish I was brave like you, Casey, and that I would just take these risks. That's a freaking lie. I am not brave. I have done so many brave things that now I'm less afraid, but it took the first time of puking and doing the thing. The first time I auditioned for a play, I was, I don't know, 37. I puked in the parking lot, and she was like 10, and she told me to do it. She said, Mom, won't you be more, what did you say to me? Will you regret it more if you don't try out, or if you try out and don't make it? Do you remember saying that to
I
me?
think so.
Yeah, when I tried out for Plaza Suite, and I'm like, I'm not going in. And so, but it was that then built the next, that built the next, that built the next. So Sophie doesn't know what she wants to do for the destination. Remember, we talked about this last week if you're tuning in. But she knows she wants to conquer the fear that liveth inside of her,
Mm-hmm.
and prevents her from doing the next freaking thing. Because the fear is the BS. So the title of my books, I'm not going to tell you, but it has BS in it, and it stands for BS. Also, Bible studies, backsliding, backstabbing. So sometimes we over knowledge ourselves in order to not make the step. So we need to stop the BS, because sometimes we just bull beep ourselves, or we start talking about other people, the bull crap, because we don't want to deal with it, or we take another Bible study because the answer is going to be in there. The answer is in the truth of knowing you have to crucify the flesh, the scary thing. And so Sophie has decided to go wolfing, which I learned about from my client Jackie and her really brave kids who have done it. And Jackie, like, this is the cool part about being a hairdresser is that you get to learn so many things from so many people. She told me her kids were doing this really amazing thing. I told Sophie about a year and a half ago, and she said, why the heck would I ever want to do that? I freaking hate that. I'm never doing that. And then this year she said, you know what? I'm going to freaking do that. And I want to do that. And so, what is it? If your kid's at home and they don't know what they want to do and they're over 18, or you don't know what you want to do, this is a great opportunity. Go for it. So, take the mic, come up close.
Okay. WOOFing is an acronym. It stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. And so there's farms across the world, across the country. You decide what you want to do and where you want to go. And so in exchange for your labor, they give you free room and board. So for some people,
is it a luxurious accommodation?
No. I mean, I'm sure you could find some, but most likely not. No. And
a couple of them that you applied for were what? Just let's fill in the gaps.
You live in a tent
with a wooden base
and a rainwater shower, and
and that's awesome. But it's not like you're going to stay on the other one was a bunkhouse that looked like a shed with 5 beds in it. Okay, keep going. So
for some people, it can be really wanting to learn about agriculture and farming, and if that's your passion. But for some people, it can be a cheaper way of travel. And for me, it will be learning new communication skills, how to be more independent, getting out of my comfort zone in a way that's exciting for me. And I love the outdoors, and I'm sure I'll fall in love with farming too, because I just think it's so exciting. But
she's just a little goat farm. I think she's gonna be a little homestead mom someday.
But
come close.
Yeah, and they're only allowed to work you 4 to 6 hours a day, up to 30 hours a week, and all that other time you get to explore wherever you're at.
And learn the culture of where you're at. So a lot of people don't spend a ton of money exploring. They do what the locals do.
Yeah. Hitchhike. It's a little scary, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
And so Sophie's applying right now on the website, which is, what's it? WOOOF. And her goal is she's going to go for a month somewhere with my mom, and then she's going to go woofing for 2 months. And in that process, so here's the thing. Some people would say, they would look at that and say, you're wasting time. You know what I say? You are multiplying your time. One of the things I said to Sophie, and she works at Subway, and she has all through high school. So she worked a full-time job, or worked and went to school, got straight A's, and did a bunch of extracurriculars. You can do it, So she is like me, believe it or not. But what I said is, you're not going to take a year off and work at Subway and stay in your freaking bedroom. And that's not me being mean, you guys. It's me because we've had enough conversations. I know my Sophie.
Yeah, it would be easy for me to get trapped.
Trapped and be comfortable because she seeks comfort, as we all do, but as an introvert even more so. And so she can go to Subway and make that sandwich fresh, and she can come home and read her, like, literally Sophie's bedroom looks like a library, and escape into her books, and maybe once a week have coffee with a friend, and go to small group on Friday and be happy, like, because that is happy, and cuddle with her cat and her squishmallows that she tried to bring in here for this episode as an adult. Yes, you did. And so we had to work together, because some parents would be like, oh, she just needs the break. Fine. But you're not going to stay here and do that, because I don't think you'll find out anything about yourself, because I believe that what happens in our growth is in the moments we choose to make ourselves uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So not miserable. So at beauty school, currently, she was miserable. I want her to be uncomfortable. So am I scared as a mama to let my kid go across the world and hitchhike in Hawaii? Yes. Do I trust that God loves Sophie more than I do? Yes. Do I believe that Sophie's days are already planned for her? Yes. Do I think that the steps that Sophie makes whether it's her one day that she makes it only one day in Hawaii and gives her best and hates it and comes home, that God will have done something on the flight there in the application process through the willingness to make the next step. I have no expectation other than she is making the movements to move the needle forward, to get herself uncomfortable, to break through these boundaries, to step out into deeper waters than she knows, because only there will we grow. And so some of us can do it in smaller increments. It doesn't have to be you have to go across the world. I've done it by, choosing to get on social media myself a few years ago as Voss the Curl Boss. And everyone made fun of me because they said that handle was weird. And every day I move that needle a little bit. I choose to make myself uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But I appreciate about Sophie is that she's willing to search for what she wants and to get uncomfortable. And so what are you hoping to discover about yourself? And we're at 29 minutes again. How does this go so quickly? What are you hoping to discover about yourself in the next 2 months as you go with Grammy or you head out or apply? What are you learning?
I think learning how to care for other people. Ooh. I think
getting out of yourself.
Getting out of myself, for being humility as a Christian, one of the biggest things we chase is humility. That's one of the biggest characteristics you're supposed to chase, And for some people that it can be hard to their people are boastful or they're just really only talk about themselves, and for me it's more about I only think about myself. And so getting away from the thoughts of oh my gosh, what are they thinking about, or I can't believe I said that 2 days ago, my head, or while other people are talking, even that small group, it can be hard to be what should I say, or how should I incorporate into this conversation, instead of just truly listening to other people. And so I think for me, I really want to chase humility in aspects of my thoughts and really think about other people and really listen to what other people have to say, and care for people and really learn what other people's love languages are, and learn, I think, and even with strangers. So, woofing going across the country and, you're going to be with a bunch of strangers, but you're going to have to learn how to love for them and care for them and be able to work with them. And I think, it will be a learning experience that will help me, that will translate to every aspect of my life, whether that's family, a job, whatever it is.
And that's it, you guys. That's exactly it. Listen, get your kids to talk because they'll have something really cool to say, and encourage them to listen to what's inside of them. So this is the journey. This is the path. This is what it's all about. So do I want Sophie to have a dream career and have all these things? Sure. But what I more want is that Sophie is following the path of growing in knowledge of love of herself, love of God, and love of a neighbor. This is it. And then God will light your path. So not all are called to the same path. Sophie and I are not the same. Mm-hmm. But her path, if you've heard her talk, is significant. And the story that she's going to share is significant. And as we talked about in other episodes, her ripple effect is already changing my life. So it's not just that we're leading people younger than us. We are leading those all around us. Thank you for leading me, Sophie, in opportunities to grow as your mom, to grow as a person who listens, to have an opportunity to be a little bit more quiet. And I think we could all take something from this episode on, we call that incarnate listening at church, where you're listening to actually listen and not to wonder what you're supposed to say next. Holy smokes. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. As always, I hope that you know that you're worthy of love, that you are awesome, that where you're headed is exactly where you're going, that you are okay, and that if you don't know you're okay, you're going to be okay.
You're going to be okay.
You're just fine. So thanks for tuning in this week, you guys. Thanks for being here, Sophie.
Thanks for having me.
I guess this is where I ask you to subscribe to my channel, to follow me on social, and to listen wherever podcasts can be found. And join me every Tuesday at 2 as we unpack how to heal your hair, your heart, and your happiness.